back to the Commander Deck Series. Today I'm going to be going over my Atraxa Praetor's Voice Commander Deck. It's going to be fully upgraded. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so Atraxa, for those of you that don't know, is a 4-drop, so green, white, blue, black for a 4/4 flyer with Vigilance, Death Touch, and Lifelink, and also the ability to proliferate at the end of every turn, or at your end step. So there's many ways to approach building her in a commander, building with her in a commander deck. The way I took it as sort of like a scavenge 1/1 counter focused base deck. So that's Atraxa. We'll move on to the land base. So for the land base, I run a grasslands. I run one of each of the Mirage fetches, so the tapped fetch lands, as I like to call them, the delayed fetch lands. So we got grasslands, the Italian version of Floodplain, Mountain Valley, Bad River, and Rocky Tar Pit. Then I also run 6 shocks, the ones I can run in my colors: Hallowed Fountain, Temple Garden, Watery Grave, Breeding Pool, Overgrown 2, and Godless Shrine. And then we move on to the temples. I'm running 6 temples, one of each of the colors that I can run. So we got Temple of Melody, Temple of Deceit, Temple of Plenty, Temple of Mystery, Temple of Enlightenment, Temple of Silence, and then I also run Temple of the False God, because every commander deck should. Dreadship Reef, because storage lands are really good for proliferating. You can put more counters on them quicker and get more mana out of them. And then we have Staple Command Tower. Should be ran in every deck. I don't run a Reliquary Tower because of the scavenge, the ability to scavenge that I have in this deck. Discarding cards won't really hurt me because I have Recursion, Reanimation, and Scavenge if nothing else. So Command Tower. Then we run 3 plains, 2 islands, 5 swamps, and 6 forests. Or 8 forests, I mean. And that completes the land base. So let's get onto the non-creature spells. So for the non-creature spells, I have Soul Ring, Commander Staple, Sensei's Divining Top, just to filter through our library, get the cards we need. Chromatic Lantern to help us out with our mana. It's actually getting pretty pricey now. This is one of the best mana fixers out there for Commander. Just provides you with all of your colors like instantly. Run Panharmonicon because there is actually a lot of ETB effects in here, and some of the artifacts have ETB effects, but not too many of them. But this is mostly for all of the ETB in the deck, and being able to, for instance, using Deep Glowscape multiple times, and that in combination with Progenitor Mimic just gets insane. But more on that later. So Panharmonicon. Then I have Contagion Engine, just to put -1/-1 counter on each creature target player controls, and then also to just proliferate twice, mainly. Then we have Vampiric Tutor, obviously a tutor for 1 mana, one of the best tutors. Path to Exile for creature removal, same thing with Swords to Plowshares. Then we have another tutor in Demonic Tutor. Cyclonic Rift, a commander staple. Fire Extane Arena, probably another commander staple. Anguished Unmaking, just non-land permanent removal. Better than Vindicate because it costs a significant chunk of money less. And the downside of having to lose 3 life is not really a downside in Commander, because you start out at so much life and you have so much during the game. Then we have Putrefy, Another removal spell. This time it makes stuff not regeneratable, and it can also hit artifacts, which is awesome. And then O-Ring to get rid of permanents, non-land permanents. Another way, just crazy good removal spell. And then we have Abzan Ascendancy. This was actually suggested to me by the guy at my card shop, the owner. Just because when it enters, it puts a 1/1 counter on every creature you control. Then when it also makes everything turn into spirits when they die. So in this deck, you get a lot more value out of it because you also get a spirit, and then you have stuff in your graveyard to then scavenge onto another creature or just reanimate back. So there's Abzan Ascendancy. Then we have Rite of Replication. Just to copy, it really gets insane with that Deep Glow Skate Progenitor Mimic thing. This can just make a ton of Deep Glow Skates, and then you just put double the counters on every permanent you have, and do that over and over and over and over again, and pretty much wins the game for you. Then we have Living Death. Just sort of a black board wipe, and for us it will get us a whole bunch of stuff back, because we will end up having, by the time we cast this, stuff in the graveyard that we won't want back. Then we have Inexorable Tide, another way to proliferate a lot of this in this deck. Then we have Unburial Rites. Like I said, there's reanimation in this deck, so that's one form of it, and it can be flashback. Doubling Season, because you can't do this without it. It's one of the main cards in the deck. One of the cards that you need to be careful with, because often people will counter this as soon as they see it, or kill it, and you got to be careful on when you cast it, and also on how you're playing it too. So there's Doubling Season. Then we have Dead Bridge Chant, more Reanimator. This just gets something from your graveyard at random, either to your hand or to the battlefield. And it also puts stuff into your graveyard as soon as it comes in, so it's awesome for reanimation. Then we have the Planeswalkers. We have Tamiyo, Field Researcher. It's there basically to tap permanents and draw cards. The ultimate you don't get to very often, because Tamiyo will often get killed super quick, but we have her in here anyway, just to help us get through the damage that we need to. And we have a Johnny, Mentor of Heroes. Puts counters on things. I love that he has 2+1s. You can also look at the top of your library to find creatures, and the ultimate, again, doesn't happen very often, but when it does, gaining 100 life feels really good. And then we have Sorin, Grim, and Nemesis. There are a lot of big drops in this deck, so Sorin is actually quite good. He hits for a lot off of his +1. His -X is a way to kill things that we can't get rid of at the time. The only problem is you have to use a lot of his loyalty to do that, and he can die really easily that way. But having his +1 deal us enough damage as it is awesome. That's why we run him. So that's the non-creature spells. Let's move on to the final category, that being the creature spells. And for the creatures, start off with Mikaeus the Lunarch. He's there to basically just put counters on things, and he actually gets counters himself, so he can become really big. He's also one of the easiest things to cast early in the game. I've only tested out this deck once, and he came out, and he actually can save a lot of things from dying if you need him to. He's in the deck because he puts counters on our creatures, he makes himself bigger. He's just a really good card overall. Then we have Gyre Sage. She's there to just basically give us mana for all the 1/1 counters she has on her. And with all the proliferate and doubling the amount of counters on things and evolve triggers that this will get, it will tap for a lot of mana. So that's why she's in the deck. And then we have Scavenging Ooze. There to exile creatures, and he can even get bigger when we do that. So he's in there just because he can get bigger, and he's awesome at removing creatures you don't want coming back. And we have Skullbriar. What's cool about him is no matter where he goes, he keeps his counters on him. Unless he's bounced to the hand or to the library. But if he dies, he still remains as big as he is with the counters on him. He just gets really big and stays that big through whatever zone he goes to. Next we have Chasm Skulker. Chasm Skulker's there just to get bigger with the amount of cards we're drawing, and which to be honest isn't that much, but whenever we draw a card he gets a counter, and then we can proliferate those counters and then get him super huge. And then when he dies, he also gives us a whole bunch of creatures that we can then block with or attack with. If for instance, if someone has islands, then those squid tokens that he makes when he dies become awesome. So he's in here just to basically help us out with getting creatures when he dies and just being a big threat. Then we have Dark Imposter. Dark Imposter's in here specifically to just be removal. Not often am I going to attack into anything bigger than Dark Imposter because I don't want Dark Imposter dead. Even though it is pretty easy to reanimate her in this deck. But mainly to be removal and to actually gain all the abilities that she exiles, basically. Then we have Renegade Crisis. Basically, whenever Renegade Crisis evolves, we put a 1/1 counter on every creature we have already with the 1/1 counter on it. So there will be a lot of 1/1 countered creatures in this deck. So whenever Renegade Crisis evolves, everything gets another one. Then we have Champion of Lambholt. Champion of Lambholt's there to just get our creatures through, and does a really good job at getting counters by itself. And the amount of creatures we're playing, we can often attack in and have everything be unblocked because of Champion of Lambholt's second ability. We can play multiple creatures in one turn, get her super huge, and get through. Then we have Eternal Witness, some reanimation. Great piece of reanimation. Then we have Plaxcaster Frogling, the only card with Graft in this deck, unfortunately, but it's in there just because I liked the second ability it has. Target creature with 1/1 counter on it gains Shroud until the end of the turn. So basically we can make something untargetable by anything for until the end of the turn for 2 mana, which is really powerful because in Commander, removal is really common and really hard to get around. So Plaxcaster Frogling helps us evade all that removal and save things that we need saved, and also make creatures bigger. Then we have Rayhan, Last of Abzan, just there to get counters when stuff dies. This is one of the things we want out when we start making creatures die or sacking creatures. Not too often are we doing that, but also just being a big threat is mainly what she's in here for. Then we have Viral's, the Scar Striped. Basically what this deck is made around. He just gives all the creatures in our graveyard scavenge, and scavenge just basically means we exile a creature card from our graveyard, and then we put a number of 1/1 counters equal to its power on a creature, and that's mainly what this deck is built around. Then we have Deadbridge Goliath, just a 5/5 with scavenge, a big beater that when he dies we can use the scavenge ability to put counters on things. We have Bloodspore Thrynax. Now this ability, Devour, is really sweet. One of the only sack outlets in the deck. And it rewards us for sacking creatures because it puts a 1/1 counter on him for every creature we sacked. And then also he has the ability of whenever a creature we control comes into the battlefield, it enters with X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Bloodspore Thrynax. So if we have a whole lot of creatures that are good at being brought back or something, or if we want scavenge targets, we can sack all our creatures, play Bloodspore Thrynax, and he just gets huge and then makes everything else just super huge. And then we can start scavenging stuff onto other creatures as well. Then we have Forgotten Ancient, just basically another big creature that's a big threat. Gets a whole lot of counters very quickly, and also a way to spread out counters to creatures that couldn't have them otherwise. Then we have Master Biomancer, an easy way to get more counters on creatures. Then we have Corpse Jack Menace, similar to Doubling Season, just doubles the counters on creatures when they get them. Then we have Solemn Simulacrum, there to just basically get us mana and draw us a card when it dies. Is a great chump blocker, a commander staple in my opinion. Then we have Cataclysmic Gerhulk. Cataclysmic Gerhulk just is basically a cataclysm on a creature. That's why we run Cataclysmic Gerhulk. And then we get to our main card, and one of the main cards in the deck, Deep Glow Skate, the one that has the most shenanigans are built around it. So Deep Glow Skate says when Deep Glow Skate enters the battlefield, double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents. So it doubles the amount of counters on everything. And then what's crazy about this is we can use Progenitor Mimic and Rite of Replication to make copies of Deep Glow Skate, and then just make everything super big, and then that turn attack in for the win. He's just crazy in general. Then we have Torrent Elemental. Torrent Elemental is just basically there to tap creatures when he attacks, and he can bring himself back, which is awesome. Then we have Cultivator of Blades. I call the Cultivator of Blades basically the mono green Xenagos in the sense that it has Xenagos' ability almost on itself. So it has Fabricate 2. We put counters on it all the time. We hardly ever make the servos. Then whenever Cultivator of Blades attacks, all other creatures that are attacking get +X until the end of the turn, where X is Cultivator of Blades power. And what's sweet about this is a counter-based, 1/1 counter-based deck. We can make this big, and then this is another way to win the game. Just play Cultivator of Blades and then attack in with Cultivator and pump everything else super big and win the game with damage. Then we have Verdurous Gerhulk, which is a crazy good way for putting counters on multiple creatures. Then we have Colonian Hydra, another big finisher, there to just basically get 1/1 counters and win the game for us. It's just protecting him that's the crazy hard thing. Then we have Gave Guru of Spores. Now I've debated on whether or not to keep this guy in the deck, but I think he's good because he can put 1/1 counters on creatures and he makes tokens to sacrifice, and it's really easy way to put counters on creatures. Then we have Wormcoil Engine, there to be just a huge beater, and then he even comes back in smaller versions when he dies, and he's also a great reanimation target because we can just keep getting more and more and more tokens. And then we have Sun Titan, another great reanimation target and a great guy that is how we get stuff back. A great reanimator, I guess you could say. Then we have Noxious Gearhulk, way to kill creatures, gain some life, and deal some damage. And then we have Jugan the Rising Star, there to make more things big. As I said, this deck is heavily 1/1 counter based, and almost every card has something to do with that or helps in another way. So Jugen, when he dies, he distributes 5 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures, and that just helps us pump all of our team just that much more, and we run him for that reason. And then we have Progenitor Mimic, there to make copies of Deep Glass Gate or Verdurous Gearhulk, stuff like that. That will just give us great value in the end game. That's why we run Progenitor Mimic. And then we have Prime Speaker Zagana. Yet another way to make things bigger. A lot of this deck is very, very heavily, like, all of a sudden you just put a whole bunch of counters on all your creatures or one specific creature and just get in. And Prime Speaker Zagana helps us out with drawing cards as well, which is really awesome. A lot of value on this creature. That's why we run Prime Speaker Zagana. Then we have Varash the Hunter. He's a big threat and he can put counters on himself. Another good target to double the counters on. He's the Elder Dragon in the colors that we're running, so we run him. One of the Elder Dragons in the colors. Then we have Shieldred, our main way of reanimating stuff. Then we have Avenger of Zendikar, a great way to make some tokens that we can then pump up with 1/1 counters or with landfall, specifically through Avenger of Zendikar, and just winning the game with the tokens. Then we run Myojin of Cleansing Fire. There's 2 Myojin in the deck specifically because when you remove the divinity counter, something awesome happens. So Myojin of Cleansing Fire, for instance, when you remove the counter, you destroy each other creature. Not great for us specifically, but since we are running Scavenge and Reanimation in this deck, it's not as big of a deal for us. Mainly there to wipe the board for everyone else. And then we have Woodfall Primus. Woodfall Primus is a great reanimation target too. It comes back on its own, and also we can just bring it back if we want to destroy non-creature permanents. And then we have Myojin of Life's Web. This is there to get us creatures on the battlefield for free, and we can do this multiple times a game if we can add the divinity counter, take it away, add the divinity counter, take it away, and keep doing that to get all our creatures on the battlefield and pump everything up and win the game. That's the Atraxa Praetor's Voice Commander deck, guys. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Make sure you like the video and follow me on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at ShyGuy768. But stay tuned for more videos. Until next time, keep on gaming. We'll see you later.